Hashtag no music, no intro. Another episode of the Saints Block Party podcast coming at you. Different setup a little bit. We are doing our third, fourth, fifth live show. And we're doing this live show a little differently. So typically when we do a live show, we do it live on YouTube. If you're watching this, if you're not a subscriber watching this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe on YouTube so you get notifications. Hit the turn on notifications so you know when we post any new videos, any new episodes, we're going live, all that. So typically our live shows, we've been doing them a live episode once a week. And then if you miss the live show, you can either go back and watch it on YouTube, or if you are not a YouTube watcher, you just want to listen to the podcast, that is only available for Patreons. However, this is a special YouTube live show that we're doing. We are talking about the Clint Kubiak OC hire. The Saints finally hired an OC. And so if you missed the YouTube version of this, it is going to be in podcast form for everyone, not just Patreons. Our Patreons still get the ad-free version of the podcast. Our dude, our brother, I'm part of G's actual family. People don't know this.
It's true.
Our dude, Geraldine, the co-host, one of the hosts of the see.
I'm gonna stop Adam right here for just 1 second because
go.
Adam, the only thing that Adam said worse than Chocobo is my first name.
Go ahead, yeah.
Garretin. For everybody in the Discord, it's G. I'm G from Chocobo Chasers. My parents call me G. My wife calls me G. It's G everywhere. So.
Thank you for correcting me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
No, I know. I appreciate it. I might be sarcastic. But we wanted to have G on because he has been such a pillar of the Saints Block Party podcast. He has been supporting us for quite a while. We're on Saints Twitter. He is one of the co-hosts of our affiliate podcast. And like we said, when we're doing these live shows, we want someone else that's on who's from the community. So, and I feel like G is a perfect person to walk that balance of when the Saints are being shitty, he feels it, but he rarely gets too negative. And I feel like this is a good podcast episode to kind of like smooth us out a little bit. And
yeah,
listen,
maybe.
we have some good shit to talk about. Like we have good news. I know we have been Debbie Downers, we have been pessimistic, we have been cynical, but this should, for the most part, be a hopefully uplifting episode to some degree. Clint Kubiak, K squared. I know Derek Carr is on cloud 9 with the 2Ks, joining as OC, joining us from San Francisco, playing in the Super Bowl next Sunday. Obviously, son of Gary Kubiak. He was OC for the Vikings in 2021. He is currently the San Francisco 49ers passing game coordinator, agreed to become the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints for this upcoming season two-ish days ago. Thoughts when that news came out? Oh, by the way, big shout out to all our people who are in like the chat and YouTube. I see you guys too, so don't worry. We'll get to questions. We'll do all that. But thoughts?
Just thank God it's over, man. This has been exhausting. We've been kind of bracing ourselves for a potential Gruden shadow OC, hire, and the fact that we didn't go that route is kind of a win in itself. But the fact that we are getting someone who is going to be, implementing some of those more modern concepts, a lot more motion, really QB friendly, which, whether or not you like Derek Carr, I hate him as a person, and probably less as a QB. But
we got Michael Thomas on the podcast.
I think my pigment's a little too light for that. But no, I'm very happy with it. I think really, it's obviously hard to get guys to come work with DA, so that's something in itself. But
right,
to be able to kind of get this hire. I think it's honestly a swing for the fences, and they did pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. Like when it came out, probably a week ago, it was really looking like they had targeted somebody from the 49ers, whether it's Brian
Right.
Greasy or Clint Kubiak. And look, Clint Kubiak just made a lot of sense, man. Like, I'm sure Zach Robinson was number one on their list, but he was never coming to New Orleans. So to grab Kubiak, somebody from that Shanahan tree, sort of the Gary Kubiak Shanahan, whatever you want to call it. Um, I think it's a win for them. Like before we get to football stuff, you know what I'm saying? Before
Right.
we see what the actual results are, just getting that in place is a win. And on top of that, which I'm sure we're gonna get to shortly, they're making other moves within the offensive staff, reflecting that change where they're not going to pigeonhole him with certain, offensive staff members and stuff like that. He's going to be able to create his own offensive staff and build it, and it's going to be either works or it don't. You know what I'm saying? Like either does or it, I mean, shit. It's on D8.
It's
No
on him.
excuses. Another year of no
None.
excuses. No excuses this time, bro. No excuses.
None.
No excuses. Part 2. Um, the sense I get with somewhat maybe a little source, but it feels like Clint Kubiak and Brian Greasy, when they started the search for offensive coordinator, were not like on their radar really. Like they had a list of people that they wanted, and they didn't get the callbacks or they didn't get the love from the people that they wanted, and so they kind of had to expand their search a bit. And listen, sometimes it's the life has a weird way of working out. Like you want a certain job, you want a certain position, you want something, and it doesn't work out, and you end up with like plan B or plan C, or I don't know where Clint Kubiak is on top of their plans. Maybe I don't know if he was even in the top 5. But that said, it's not it's it's not any type of John Gruden that we know of. He's not coming on the team
Yes.
again that we know of yet, and that in and of itself is a win. And this is the first time since 2006 that the Saints are not going to run any type of Sean Payton
It's
variation or
crazy.
variant
Which
of
is
an offense.
insane.
That is
Insane, bro.
absolutely
Like there,
wild.
there are listeners to this podcast that only know that offensive system watching the Saints. Don't know
It's
anything else.
2024. We're
Yeah,
close
I'm
to
one of
like
them.
two decades of like that is wild. That is
It's wild,
wild.
bro.
Ryan hit it on the head because with the first I heard about the hire, my second question is like, all right, they hired him. Are they going to let him do what he wants to do offensively? Are they going to let him whatever his vision is offensively, whatever system he want to run, whatever type of coaches scheme? And we've already started to see it. Doug Marrone let go
Out.
of
Bye,
old
baby.
line coach. Obviously, that would probably indicate that Clint Kubiak has some guys that he's worked with that he wants to bring in, and that's kind of it's funny because we've harped on Da for not having a Rolodex for such a long time, but just in by hiring Clint Kubiak, Clint Kubiak has a Rolodex that Da didn't have access to
Exactly.
before. So like now
Exactly.
he's able to kind of fill the team out with some stuff, which is great. Um, my big question now is this: I wonder how much juice was it's twofold. One, I wonder how much juice Clint Kubiak is going to be able to actually kind of say as
Mhm.
OC. I'll give you a perfect example, and I'm not saying that he's going to have this much juice. I don't know if if we'll ever see this again. Do you remember when Mike Marks was the head coach of the Bears, and he's
Mhm.
like, I don't use tight ends, don't need tight ends. Greg Olson,
Bye.
you're traded to the Panthers. Like, and
Right.
OC did that.
Yeah.
For third round pick. For a third round pick.
So I'm not saying, but not to that extreme, but if he a perfect example is I want to see how they approach this offseason. If Clint Kubiak comes in with his notes and he says, you know what, you guys got a similar player in AK at the running back position that I've seen in Christian McCaffrey this season. I have some ideas, whatever, some things to maybe utilize him in a way that can get him back to looking like the old AK. Is his voice gonna carry enough where maybe if they thought of trading AK, maybe he can say, hey, whoa, no, we're not doing that. I'd be fascinated to know how much input he actually has.
Yeah.
I think he has to be honest, because if they want, we've talked about it, and if you're not a member of the Discord, here's a perfect chance to plug it. I am a Patreon, and that has
Has been for a
blossomed
long
into
time, man.
it's blossomed into a whole lot more. Obviously, we're an affiliate podcast with these guys now, but the point I'm making is a lot of the discussion that goes on within the Discord is really good. You get to see a lot of different points and a lot of different opinions about the way things should be run. But one thing that I have thought is really interesting, and I can't remember who brought it up, but just the fact that what's going to happen if Kubiak comes in and the offense just totally starts humming, but now the defense starts taking a step back. The thing that will, and it's not the worst thing in the world, because if that, let's say that does happen, and let's say the Saints miss the playoffs again because the defense isn't good enough.
Right.
Totally valid, possible, option there. Well, they don't make the playoffs in a perfect world. DA gets fired. Well, you already got the offense there. You already got the guy. Let's just promote him to head coach. I mean, obviously they're going to do their little sham head coach search, and they're going to bring in, they're going to satisfy the Rooney Rule, even though they already know the guy they want to go ahead and hire, because that's just how it goes, unfortunately. But I think that there is a lot of potential for this to go right, and then for the potential for it to go wrong, DA just gets fired, and then we clean house, and then you get to just do this all again next year, but we get to start from scratch, and that premise is exciting as well. So,
soul for a soul.
Another scenario is it doesn't work. Clint Kubiak, doesn't have the special sauce, at least not enough to, make Derek Carr look good, or not enough to make the run game hum, or maybe it takes a while for everything to click, or, who knows. And they miss the playoffs, and the whole staff gets dumped, and next offseason we're right back to square one, trying to figure out everything all over again, which would be like
Dallas still head coach. Oh my God,
him gone.
Okay.
With DA gone too, but which would be like most, half the league does every year. They bring in the new coordinators, new head coaches, new staff, this and that, and that's kind of where we are as the Saints team. So it will be interesting, man. It's going to be fun just to kind of see how everything comes together throughout OTAs, minicamp, training camp. The staff that gets hired, training camp reports, preseason. Like, we're going to be hyper focused on everything, because we've been so used to seeing we watch Saints football. We know the plays that's coming up. We look at the formations. We know what's about to happen. Like, we just know it. So it's going to be exciting just to not know what's coming. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think you're going to have to study a little bit of, I was going to say, I guess you'd have to study a little bit of the 49ers, but he's kind of been everywhere. So, there's not really a blueprint for like what this offense is potentially going to look like.
Yeah, like everybody, it seems like there's assumptions like, we're going to get that Kyle Shanahan offense. I'm like, first, that's a tall order. Like, Kyle Shanahan is tall. So, and second, like, he's been with Shanahan, but he kind of been, he's Gary Kubiak and all that stuff. So it's kind of like his chance to make his own, make his, Clint Kubiak offense. You know what I'm saying? And we don't know what that is. We're going to see.
Well, and I hope we get some of those concepts that his dad, like, I'm sure he's going to rely on his dad as a resource. Like, whether we ever see him become like maybe an official consultant with the team or something, you see that happen, when with father-son combos like this happen. I know Mike joined one of Kyle's, crews at one time, but it just like, especially when it comes to like run blocking, like I would really love to see a lot of those, same concepts implemented. So
something that's interesting to me, and this happens a lot, is typically coaches do it a lot, is that they like working with like players who they're familiar with, coaches they're familiar with, players they're familiar with. It would be very. So I just on a whim just pulled up like the Niners and the Vikings like upcoming free agents to see offensively like who were some offensive players, maybe offensive line, because I wonder if Clint Kubiak's going to be able to say, hey, I work with this player, on the line in San Francisco. He's not going to demand a lot of money, but he could be a decent starter on the offensive line. Like little things like that. Intel like that is extremely valuable. And it's probably giving a perspective and a different point of view that the Saints haven't had it feels like in such a long period of time, because they've just been so in their echo chamber of thoughts. And ultimately for this to work though, DA has to not worry about anything Clint Kubiak is doing. Yeah. And I would imagine since they're allowing him to bring in his like assistants or whatever, that he's going to be given that luxury, because a lot of people still don't understand the big reason why a lot of offensive coordinators didn't want to work with the Saints, or specifically DA, is that he was like micromanaging the offense. It's
there's no autonomy.
There's like what like, so why would you even think about coming to a team that already has some question marks in general? But if the head coach, who's a defensive guy, is going to kind of tell you what system to run, so I would imagine, being that Clint Kubiak is going to bring in some offensive assistants that he works with and people he wants to work with, that he'll probably hopefully be able to run whatever offense he wants to run. I watched 1.5 games of Clint Kubiak as OC with the Vikings in 2021. I will say something that was a little surprising, and maybe he's learned a little bit from that, but it's not that long ago. There was not a lot of motion ran pre-snap. It was very stagnant, and I'm not saying that that's going to be the same here, but obviously working with Kyle Shanahan hopefully gives him a little insight into how important motion is.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. Yeah, and you pointed out players that they could bring in. That I wonder if he would have interest in if they would have interest in bringing in Sam Darnold as a number 2, because everything I've heard, they really like Darnold with the 49ers. They like having him there. I don't know if he's going to be a free agent or not, but I imagine
he
would be available.
He is.
And like as a pass game coordinator and a QB guy, you work with the backup quarterback a lot. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that could be somebody that could bring in that kind of knows what he wants. You know what I'm saying? And they could work. He could work in tandem with Derek Carr and all that, and then kind of like have a little backup plan in case Derek Carr kind of stinks it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not saying Sam Darnold going to be anything, but Sam Darnold is a talented. He has pedigree.
You mean the Sam Darnold that came back against the Saints in Week 17 2 seasons ago? That's Sam Darnold, right? Yes, him.
Yeah, I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
The player that look up the stats from that game.
No, please don't. The player that stands out to me the most when I'm looking at these free agents, and I think he's like technically an exclusive rights free agent, if I remember correctly. Maybe he's not. Is Juwan Jennings, wide receiver for the 49ers.
And I think he's going to be a dude that's really sought after, because you're finding less and less of those really big bodied possession. Basically kind of a Mike Thomas light, like just big body possession style receivers.
So
it's not really available.
I watched a lot of him last year, obviously because of Jay, right? So I saw a lot of him, and when he became a free agent this past free agency and people were not signing him, I was a little surprised, because every Niners game I watched, he was making big catches, clutch catches, possession receiver, just one of those guys that just does the dirty work and doesn't get like a lot of buzz about it. And like, you need guys like that. Like those guys are crucial to your team, and he didn't get any buzz, so he re-signed with the Niners, and it was no big thing. Like, if that's a guy that would make a lot of sense for the Saints, especially since Michael Thomas is no longer going to be with the team. Someone said 2 Jawans on the team, different spellings, Mike, and not the same spelling. No Cap, No Filter says Clint going to come through clutch whenever we face the 49ers down the road these next few years. Hopefully we can poach good players and staff. Please. We need it. We need
it. You know what? And I was just thinking about this. What's crazy is going back to like nobody wanting to work with DA and Clint coming over. All it takes is one good year as an OC to become a head coach, and you have guys who won't come in like even like, and the Saints have good weapons too. Like you've got Olave, you've got Shaheed, you've got Derek Carr, who is a quarterback who can get those guys the ball if you don't put pressure in his face. Like really, he's so sensitive to that. But just one quick thing wanted to add because that's just insane.
It's wild. Isn't that wild? And it happened like almost 2 seasons in a row, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like it's like, but listen, that said, Clint Kubiak's OC, Doug Marone's gone. Can we just briefly hit on this Michael Thomas, Derek Carr thing?
Oh, just when it was going good.
Right?
Just so we'll be positive.
All I'm going to say is this. The Derek Carr podcast he was on, I don't even know the name of it, I didn't listen to it. What I read just highly emphasizes how much of a con artist this guy is. Like, it was so slick. It was so slick.
Bro, it's just straight gaslighting, man.
I audibly laughed, read it. I was just like, that motherfucker.
Like, maybe I didn't throw the best ball, but like, I feel sorry for myself. Like,
not going to throw a perfect ball 100 out of 100 times. You know what I'm saying?
Get the fuck out of here! Like, come on.
The big thing to me was the Chris Olave thing.
Yeah, right? Oh, the jealousy.
That like the way it was worded, and he's sly as shit. Boy, he is slimy, bro. Like he's slimy as
because the way he did it, he was like, we came in, we were making him the number one receiver, and I understand the frustration. But look, Chris Olave is his guy. That's his guy. He kept saying, Chris Olave is his guy. Bro. It's like, I see what you're doing, boy. I see what you're doing.
Man, that Ohio State fraternity, like that brotherhood, and it's not just a Saints thing, it's league wide. Like those guys have a love and respect for each other. So to think that in any way, shape, or form, like I think Mike is realistic and he knows that like it's been a really frustrating last few years. But to think that there's some animosity or some jealousy because they picked Chris Olave in the first round and expect him to be, part of this team for the next decade plus. That's what you do when you make a guy first round pick. But just for him to come out and say what he did is just asinine.
Wow. Asinine, bro. Asinine.
Like it would have made a little more sense if he did that if Michael Thomas literally didn't like during the season like come to Chris Olave's defense like on Twitter. We're not dumb. Like you dummy, you idiot. Like you
just
and I also hate the narrative building that Mike Thomas's tweets and stuff like that is due to his frustration with them and injury. Like
Mike has been tweeting the way Mike has been tweeting since he's got drafted. Like Mike's always been Mike. The only thing is he's been hurt, so he's not putting up the numbers. So the people who call themselves fans and he's tweeting the same way, they don't want to hear it now because they see that he's not quote unquote productive. He's always been the same player and kept shit real. He's not changed, not one time.
No, he just went from a Hall of Fame dude throwing him to the ball to this. And what's really shitty is Derek Carr made some stupid fucking Instagram post like a day or two after the whole Mike comments came out. And the thing that's concerning is how many players were like firing up their QB. And I don't know if it's just a show of support, but like there's a bunch of dudes who it's like, man, you really agree with like what he's saying? Like it just that felt really slimy. And it's guys like
boys got jobs, man. They like shit.
Hey, I get that. I get it. But it's Pete Werner, which is
But Ryan made a good point on this on Twitter of like it was like defensive players and like tight end threes, bro. Like yeah.
Where was Eric McCoy at? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where was Chris Olave at? And I'm like, I'm just saying.
Eric McCoy too busy in the Pro Bowl because he's actually good enough to make it. So
DeMario Davis was the Pro Bowl MVP. Defensively, I
didn't watch it.
Single second of it. draft, do you feel that now with Clint Kubiak, because it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in regards to like how much input is he actually going to have? Is he going to be able to come in first year as OC for the Saints, second time as an OC, and if he has a strong conviction on a player or a position when the Saints are on the clock, is like and we'll never really potentially know, but I'm fascinated to know how much that's going to go into their decision making and how much input he may have regarding like their draft board when it comes to players who may be available when they're drafted in the draft in a couple of months.
Right. I'll say this. I mean, I would hope that any OC obviously would have their voice heard in those kind of conversations, because the NFL is so unlike every other sport where it is just like this monumental group effort and everything kind of has to mold together to make, because no product is going to be perfect, obviously, but it has to be something. And so, whether they do target O-line or, a wide receiver or tight end or D-line or say, whatever it is, I just hope that there's a strong consensus. Like that's my biggest thing. Like I want everybody to be on the same page that like, yeah, we got the guy we wanted. We whether that's Brock Bowers, whether that's a Alu Fashi,
Give
like
me
whoever it is, if it's Jared Verse, if it's Latu, like whoever that ends up being, let it just be someone that everybody was like, okay, let's do this. And then if they're not going to pick your guy in that first round, like know that like there's the confidence that okay, we're going to address these needs later on in the draft. We're going to go get another wide receiver. We're going to go do And the thing is, like I'm one of those people. I don't necessarily think that wide receivers is big of a need next year. Like there's a lot of guys like I'd love to see Lynn Bowden get more stuff. A.T. Perry is obviously a guy who came on really strong at the end of last year, and that's a starting 4 wide receivers. You probably want another guy in there, at least one. Yeah. But again, that's where a Juwan Jennings or you find a big bodied guy in the draft or something like that.
Right. I'd just say offensive weapon is a need, whether that's a tight end, whether that's a gadget wide receiver that can run the ball, carry the ball, and catch the ball. Whether it's a running back who could, do everything. They got some juice. They just need like a juicy weapon, bro. Somebody that can just break somebody.
I'm clipping that, bro.
Yeah,
clipping that, bro. Just somebody that can bust some stuff open, man. Bust it open. You know what I'm saying? Like, but regarding the draft, I mean, that's just how it works. I mean, the scouts do their reports. Then it moves on to the coaches, and the coaches have to look over players. It's going to be real interesting, how much input Clint Kubiak has, especially with the O-line. Does he want a more athletic offensive line? James Hurst, like, do you want to run some inside zone? I mean, I know they run some inside zone, outside zone already, but we don't do it well. You know what I'm saying? So do you want some offensive linemen that can run some stretch zone and stuff like that are really good at it? We're going to see, man. Like, I would hope that he has, and whoever he brings in for the offensive line, I think they're going to get that anti-vax guy. I was like, hell no, I'm not taking it.
Oh, Rich Dennison?
Yeah, I'm not getting the jab. I will not get the jab.
Him and Paulson Adebo going to be best buds. Just like,
what's up, homie? They probably already be texting each other, But I mean, whatever, bro. If you can coach O-line, come on, man. Like,
hey,
everything rolling, bro.
Cam Maki said it wasn't COVID. Eric Martinez in the chat says, is Clint Kubiak going to be able to run his offense or run the offense how DA wants it to be ran? We wish we knew. I don't know.
Let me ask y'all this: what does the offense have to look like for Derek Carr to be the best Derek Carr he could be?
A lot of play action. I think you have to emphasize the run game, because if you can run, you're going to get more from your play action. And then from there, I think the whole line works better when they can run block. So I think that has to be a huge point of emphasis. Like I want to see Kendre Miller, health assuming obviously, get a ton more carries this year. Want to see AK be utilized the way that we know he should be. and that's one thing I think is really exciting is because obviously Clint's been working with, Christian McCaffrey and obviously McCaffrey and AK have a ton of comparisons. And I mean, McCaffrey, let's be honest, has been outperforming AK heavily over the last few years. And it was kind of the other way around the few years before that because McCaffrey can never stay healthy. And then dude gets traded and all of a sudden has never been hurt ever since. So
got traded. He's been lucky injury health-wise, and he also got paired with an offensive coordinator that knows how to utilize Christian McCaffrey to the best of his ability. Like that first game he played against the Rams, that was the Raiders Saints meetup last year, and we went to Walk or Manning's after that, and like Christian McCaffrey threw a touchdown against like the Rams in his first game with the Niners. Yeah. So like you have to like, so hopefully. And I have no insight or intel if they will keep AK or are they going to still trade. I don't know, but I would say that with a hire like this, I would say in theory it should up the chances of keeping AK because you have someone coming from an offense that sees how vital it is to have a playmaker at that position. For me with Derek Carr. I always go back to the best version of Derek Carr was with the Raiders, was under John Gruden, and John Gruden and Mike Mayock really built that offensive line. That was when they had like the races Richie Incognito. I think Colton Miller was on the line.
They drafted him during that period. Yeah.
They had Donald Penn, I believe, too. It's also very sick that I can just know this off the top of my head. It's a big sicko. But like that offensive line was like bullies. And John Gruden leaned heavily into the run game. And Derek Carr didn't have to go out and be like a superstar quarterback. He just and when he needed to make plays and make throws when the offense needed it, he did it, and he did it very, very, very well that season. That to me is how you get the best version of Derek Carr. So whatever the reality is to get there, I would say that's how I hope the Saints kind of try to do it. I will say though, something that's very interesting to me is if you look at the Niners offensive line, right? Obviously they have Trent Williams, who's one of the best offensive tackles in football, has been for a while. They have a first round pick selection at right tackle and Mike McGlinchey or Mike
McGlinchey's with Denver now.
Denver. So they only have one offensive lineman that's been a first round pick. So maybe Clint Kubiak doesn't think that they need an offensive line in the first round. Maybe they can get some guys in free agency. I'm fascinated to see what they do in free agency. Like this free agency for the Saints, and I get it. Money wise, cap wise, oh shit, we gotta talk about fucking Derek Carr fucking restructuring his contract. But money wise, cap wise, they'll do what they'll do. They still will sign some players that they have their eye on, whatever. This free agency has to be about addressing needs. Address as many needs as you can in free agency so that when it's on the clock, you can just take whoever the best player is there. Because they have to stop this shit where they're just trying to chase this need and they're just getting the pick wrong and they're like, stop it. Just try to get the need in free agency, please.
Right.
Yeah, and that's usually how they approach it. It's usually must needs and wants. So they, usually with free agency, they try to address their musts. See what they could. I mean, the issue this year is like their musts are at very expensive positions, like defensive end and offensive line. So it might be one of the things we gotta wait for the draft to address it. But if they can get an upgrade at left guard in free agency, which shouldn't break the bank. If they could find maybe a defensive end that's just starting to kind of show that peak that you can get from the field. AJ Epinesa, somebody
he's
like
on my
that.
list, man.
Make those moves, and that doesn't mean you ignore it in the draft, but at least that's a position you addressed, and you can go into the draft with a full open mind and just go get the best players you can in the draft.
They have a very, very limited amount of draft picks because they're the Saints, right? Like a very, very limited amount of draft picks.
It sucks. This would be the year that honestly would not be a terrible idea to move down, because if you could get some of those, second, third rounders there. So one thing that's been a really hot topic at the Senior Bowl this week is O-line play has been great. They've said that the tackles that are there have been really good. So I don't know if we'll see a run early on.
The Saints love the Senior Bowl, so
they do, and so. And it's not like we have a tackle who's, withering away on the bench right now. So
my hot take is that the offensive line is not as dire as people make it out to be. I will stand by that.
It's not.
I would agree. Yeah.
I do not think it's as dire as that what I don't want them to do is what I felt they did when they drafted Trevor Penning. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, is that Teron left and he was injured, but James Hurst filled in. I was screaming all through that offseason. Like, James Hurst was okay. Like, he was okay to the point of serviceable to the point that you could at least have held out and not drafted a left tackle in round 1. But they did anyway. And I'm not putting this all on Trevor Penning because I think some of that is coaching and vendetta and what have you. And he also hasn't played. But that's a completely different draft that they have drafted. Let's say that draft is like Chris Olave and Kyle Hamilton instead, right? Like that, the whole outlook of the team looks tremendously different. But because they tried to fill that need because they felt that left tackle was such a strong need, they went with Trevor Penning. They wanted to draft Charles Cross, and they wanted to trade up. They couldn't do it, and so Trevor Penning was their backup plan. And I don't like. And again, obviously, the must this offseason, which is fucking wild, is Andrus Peat. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy,
man.
Gotta get that
what a shift.
Signed. Which is crazy because Hurst was playing left tackle. He's at left guard now, and Pete is back to tackle. It's like, what in the world?
It's insane.
And I mean, Pete could have a market, man. O-line play across the league was shit last year.
Absolutely.
So,
no question.
And to have a semi-quality left tackle just come available, and he's not going to sign a 5-year deal or anything like that. Like he's older, he's 30, might be 31 or 32 at this point, but you're not signing up for this huge commitment. So I think he's going to have a market. So we'll have to see. Maybe his old buddy Sean's going to give him a call. We'll see.
Then they got Garrett Bowles, who's whatever. Our dude Rob says he has more lives than a black cat. I would love. I want to tell this to Rob on the stream. He has no idea how many times that me and Jay in real life will say, "Please delete. I have an agenda to push now." Like we say it all the time. Thank you, Rob, for that. Okay, let me just roll this version of offensive line out for you. And I'm not saying this is a great one, but it just may be enough to be decent and good enough, right? Pete at left tackle, Trevor Penning at guard. This is all fantasy, right? We don't know if he can play guard. We're just playing around.
Yeah.
Eric McCoy at center, Maurice at right guard, and I know he got injured, but let's say for shits and giggles, Landon Young at right tackle, right? Because he played 2 games at right tackle, and at least against Kayvon Thibodeau, he looked the part. Like he looked damn good, playing that role. Was that fool's goal? I don't know, but could that be enough to be the starting O-line? In theory, yes. I don't think the team wants that to be enough. I'm just to the point of just please just go draft a good player, and at least in round 1 and round 2, it needs to be a good player. Don't focus on the position, just draft a good fucking player.
It needs to be a starter, man. It needs to be a contributor.
Please.
It needs to be somebody who's going to come in, and it needs to be Olave is a great example. He is a great player, an ascending player. He is a near Pro Bowl level player. But they don't have to be to that level. Give me somebody who is competent and who can just come in. Give me a 7-sack-a-year defensive end. I'm not going to be upset at that. Give me Alex Okafor level talent. Just somebody who can come in and be good.
Yeah. No, if they could They really need it, man. Like
Need it.
this draft is so crucial. Even with the few picks that they have, if they could come out with three starters, it just sets everything in balance. Because then you can look at your last year's draft picks. Maybe Falsky is able to contribute this year. Maybe who else did we draft? Kendrick Miller. Maybe he has a healthy season. You know what I'm saying? Brian Brissy, he takes a second step and becomes a more contributor on the defensive line. So then everything started to come to balance because you got this new draft class, they contribute, and then your draft class from last year they starting to contribute more. Now you got a young core that's really starting to come together. Now you're starting to cook. We'll see though.
We have questions. How would Brock Bowers look in this Saints offense?
I mean, I think obviously you've got a guy coming from San Francisco. I think they try to emulate a lot of the stuff that San Francisco does with Kittle, but
Kittle.
How does Brock Bowers do in the blocking game? Like I haven't really watched his run, his blocking snaps and nothing like that. Does he have to want to?
He's a dog, bro. Like he probably is. I would say as a prospect, like if just imagine, I guess like Rob Gronkowski as like a tight end prospect, but in college. Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be that in the NFL, but like all around prospect in college, that's what his game was. But yeah, I think G said it. Like the Kittle comparison makes a lot of sense. Dante says, if Carr restructures, what are the top 3 free agent needs?
I think it's not an if. I think it's a done deal at this point.
Yeah. It's done, Dante. Dante's peak. Edge rusher. To me, edge rusher is number 1. I know. I'll say one of mine is edge rusher. I'll let G and Ryan say theirs.
I'll say safety. I think that we have seen a little bit of signs of slipping from Honey Badger. I mean, so Kansas City and Houston, they recognized when they or I guess it was Kansas City in this case, they recognized when they let him go that he was a player that was past his prime and he wasn't going to be worth the contract he was going to sign in free agency. So, and to his credit, he has made some great plays in certain aspects, and then you just see him get fucking dog walked. He gets just obliterated by like some stiff arm. He has one of those plays like per game where he just gets absolutely destroyed. And part of it's a size thing. Like he's not a big safety, but he's just also a little older, and he's not as fast, he's not as athletic. So I think safety DB, especially with a potential, Marshawn leaving, like obviously I think Isaac Yadam's going to be a free agent. So obviously re-signing him should be a priority. But you got to get a slot guy, because assuming that, you trade Marshawn, the hope is that you'd move Alante back to their perimeter.
Outside.
So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, you could also, like you mentioned, safety. I mean, what do they do with Marcus May? Does he get cut? They need speed on defense, bro. Like
speed, man.
Yes.
I feel like the speed in the middle of the defense is lacking. I mean, Demario Davis, I mean, God bless him. The dude just keep performing, but he's started to show a few cracks in the armor this year, even though he was still terrific. So he's going to slow up. Pete Werner, we saw him kind of take a step back this year. Safety play has been slow. So, I mean, the middle of the field dictates the speed of your defense. And I just feel like there's not a lot of speed there. So I would like to see somebody, whether that's a safety, whether it's a linebacker, somebody maybe that could potentially take over for DeMario when he leaves, that could come in. And linebackers aren't really expensive. Like I wouldn't expect them to go and pay like a Patrick Queen or somebody like that. There are linebackers you can get much cheaper that can come in and provide something. Even look at Demario Davis, for example. It wasn't like he was this highly sought after linebacker when he was leaving the Jets.
Jets,
yeah. So it's like you can find these guys. So I think that's something they need to address, because I don't trust them motherfuckers drafting a linebacker. Period.
I
don't trust
all,
them.
Ryan.
At all.
At all. I have the linebackers right here who are free agents. Devin White, Josie Jewell, Isaiah Simmons, Aziz Ashilari would actually be I just wonder at what point do they maybe stop going for what their prototypes have been, and I don't know if this is the year that they're going to start, because we have Zach Vaughn who had a good season for his standards when they started doing what he does well. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Like there's like this list of like linebackers is a long list. And you can get a guy, Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks is a UFA coming up? Did they not pick up his 5th-year option? Interesting. But there are players that they could shout out Stephon Anthony. Bro, it's a long list. Stephon Anthony.
He's coaching at Clemson now.
Kyrie Ford. Coaching. Stephon Anthony coaching.
Yeah, he couldn't learn a playbook, but he's supposed to be teaching everybody else. Like,
hey,
the Stephon clap.
Hey.
So
damn. God damn it. He went that way. I was supposed to be this way, right?
Yeah. Bro had like 150 tackles his rookie year, and he realized they're all 7 yards downfield.
Bro, don't get me started on that argument. People will bring up, man, he got 120 tackles. I'm like,
he had a pick too, and I remember it was in the Indianapolis game, and I was like, hey, that was a pretty good play. And then the rest of the year just.
Oh, Taki is a free agent. There's good linebackers.
There's some guys there.
There are. So what are overall thoughts regarding the Derek Carr restructure?
I mean, I think it was just necessary. It's the biggest thing that you can do to free up cap. So if it was like a big surprise, maybe that's, it's harder to take.
No surprise. It was what they were going to do. If Derek Carr like flamed out last season and like just like completely crashed, like what was the game? Was it Jacksonville? It was before the Giants game. What was the game before the Giants game?
I think it might have been Jacksonville.
Yeah, that was Jacksonville.
Like if he didn't turn it around after that and just continue to suck, then there would have been a situation where it's like, look, maybe we don't restructure him this year, figure something out, do some Kai Harley voodoo to where maybe you don't cut him this year, but you get to the point where you can't cut him in 2025 and not have huge ramifications or whatever. But the way he finished, bro, he had the nice little 25 touchdowns and 9 interceptions and they were just like, fuck that. We are gonna restructure that deal because he is our quarterback. He's here to stay, baby. Y'all don't sound excited, man.
It's. I'll tell you about. I think Clint will help him have a good year. Obviously, depending on a lot of factors, but
right
there is some signs for encouragement for sure. But I mean, he's an empty stat guy. Like he's there's a basketball player, and I'm forgetting his name.
He's the offensive version of Stephon Anthony.
Yeah, honestly, but like.
Not smart. we'll put up meaningless fucking stats.
Yeah, but in blowout games, he's gonna look like a superstar. Yes. He will look like the guy that you pay $50 million to, and you're like, man, we actually got him for less than that. Like we got a deal. But
bro, listen, if you just look at those, and this is the Derek Carr experience. If you just look at those last 4 games of this season, man, you get how NFL teams are like, yeah.
He's on pace for like 50 touchdowns if you look at it that way. Like, also look at who he was playing those last 4 games. Like it,
man was going against what's his name? The Falcons quarterback that's terrible. Desmond Ridder. Like,
which one?
Like right.
No,
but that's the thing, like I just wish their standard was how does Derek Carr look when the opposing quarterback is like a stud? Like can we look at those games? Like they were like, oh, what did you like? That's how I wish that they would ask their question. Wait, sorry. Oh no.
Stop streaming.
No, we're good. G just froze.
Oh, G.
Well, this is a live show. So we're gonna keep it rolling. Yeah, he dropped. He'll come back in. Question for you, Ryan, and we'll get ready to wrap this up when G comes back. You know who's a free agent this upcoming season? And I have no idea if they would do it. It would make a lot. I don't know how much sense it would make, especially when they drafted Kendre Miller and they have to decide what they want to do with AK. Josh Jacobs.
There we go. Sorry about that, boys.
All good. I was just telling Ryan we're wrapping up soon, but just someone that I saw on this list. I'm just looking at like free agents for this upcoming free agency period, and he doesn't make a lot of sense, but in other ways he does make a lot of sense. Is that Josh Jacobs is a free agent from the Raiders?
He's, there's going to be a lot of hesitancy from the league giving out like larger contracts to running backs who are not Christian McCaffrey. And, we even saw it last year. Like the top running back in free agency was Miles Sanders, and he was awful last year. He was so bad. And he got like, I don't know if he got like 20 or 30 million total over like a 5-year deal or something. And it's only going to get worse from this point. So
he signed like a 1-year deal, didn't he?
Yeah. And he can still get franchised next year too. So but you're going to have Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard was also on the tag this year. Austin Eckler, but he was pretty awful this year. There's some decent like mid-tier guys, like Devin Singletary is going to be a free agent, but I do think Houston's going to work pretty hard to try and re-sign him. DeAndre Swift had a pretty solid year in Philly, and Philly doesn't pay running back, so would not be surprised if he's somewhere else. Adams Bay, Deontay Foreman's going to be a free agent again. Had a not terrible year. That whole running scheme for the Bears was pretty bad. So
should give me what you bought the Falcons, Tyler Algier or whatever.
Man,
seemed like he went off anytime he played against the Saints.
Run me. The Tennessee running back, tight end or no, wide receiver, played for the Falcons. He ran into he ran a kickback against us. I can't think of his fucking name right now. I'm blanking.
What was his name?
He switched. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Come on, man.
I have no idea who you guys are talking about.
He used to play with the Vikings. It's gonna drive me crazy.
Wide receiver, twist the running back. Like, what's wrong with my head?
Cordero Powder.
CPAT, yeah.
That would like if you want to talk about juicy players, I would be fascinated to see Cordero Patterson, and I don't want to assume that a Clint Kubiak offense is going to look like a Kyle Shanahan offense, but like just a modern offense that's not a Sean Payton offense. You bring in Cordero Patterson running some ghost action, and that's a player that if you just want to go like cheap, Cordero Patterson's not going to cost a lot of money. And he could be a running back. He could be tight end. He could have like that's. I wanted the Saints to sign him last offseason when he made that first full transition to running back, and he like looked really good all of last season. And then Arthur Smith just can't fucking coach offense well to get balls to his playmakers. It's weird, but that's a player that if I'm the Saints, I'm like, hey, we've seen him. Like he's in our division.
Yeah,
that'd be like a nice little. Oh, sorry. Wayne was like, look in the chat. Sorry. Thank you, Wayne. Eric said, but what will we do with Jamal Williams? You know what, Eric, man? I don't know, and I don't care.
I hope he slims down and plays fullback. He can replace Adam Prentice for all I care.
The Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah,
I don't care.
yeah,
He got his touchdown.
yeah.
Thanks to Jameis. No,
Yeah.
thanks to DA.
Go ahead, bro. Like,
Statistician's going to be like, did you know that he ran for 18 touchdowns in 2 seasons, and 17 of those came in 1 year? Like, you know, a guy I really like in the running back crop is Zach Moss from Indy. Did a really awesome job filling in for Jonathan Taylor when he was out. So
that's a good one. That's a good one.
He's still relatively young. He's 26. Like, there's not a lot of mileage because he was never the feature guy in Buffalo when he was there before. So that's another name I definitely like to keep an eye on.
That's a good one.
They could just reprint that same little contract that they give every running back, that little 4 year.
Yeah.
416, bro. 416.
Yeah. Latavius Murray, Mark Ingram, like.
There you go. Just
they're just using name, right? Yes.
Here you go, bro. Come on down.
For real though.
That's a great. And listen, I don't like tooting our horns too much, but front office, when y'all listen to this on Monday morning, listen to our man G. Just take some notes down. Have a notepad. Just write some names. Zach Moss, Cordero Powder. Just write some names down. That's all we're saying.
There's a few guys on that list.
Yeah.
You know,
Eric Martinez says Kendra was looking special at the end of last season. Special's a little strong, but he looked like he belonged. But that was like in one game. Like you cannot as a smart professional sports team, not even football, you cannot put all your eggs into like one game, because our dude Q in the chat says I can see them trading Jamal. Got some
for what?
Yeah, who's going to take him and for that contract? I mean,
he
led the league in touchdowns the year before, and the Lions were like, best of luck to you, man.
Yes, Eric Kendre was flashing, to say the least. It was one game, so they should not bank on that being a thing. Like, a smart team will say, okay, cool, you flashed in that one game. He was hurt in college.
That boy's getting injured like on Tuesdays. Like, we didn't even practice on Tuesdays. What is going on here? He be off the report and back on the report. It's like, what is going on, man? I don't know, bro.
Yeah, you can't depend on that. That's funny you say that. Speaking of going back to that kind of Clint Kubiak, maybe tree and Rolodex, the Niners always have like these backup running backs that they've had in the past that's played well behind C-Mac or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if they're free agents. I can't even think of Jordan Mason's one of them. There's another one. Elijah Mitchell. I don't know.
Well, they've had guys in the past who were the exact same. You know, Matt Breida looked like he was going to be a superstar for like 4 games, and then you had, I mean, Raheem Mostert is that dude for Miami now, but I mean, he's the only one that left who has been that guy. Like,
yes,
I think it's all just a system thing. I think that it's a system that accentuates their strengths. They do a really good job of getting really athletic guys in that position, and you see the results.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it going back to when Mike Shanahan was with the racial slur franchise team, when he traded Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey. Like, that was like a perfect example of that. So anyhow, this was fun. Thank y'all for joining us in the chat on did you unzip your zipper?
That was
my chair. That was my
chair. We getting late night.
SBP after dark.
Uncut like BET.
BET uncut.
Anyway, thank y'all for joining us in the live show.
Man, what happened to the poster, G?
Which one?
The what's his name? No, I'm tripping. I'm tripping.
You're thinking of Dash.
That's Dash.
Oh no, yeah. No pitbull for me.
All bald white men don't look alike, Ryan. Jesus
Just-
Christ Almighty.
I'm tripping. That's Dash. Maybe we get Dash on one of these days.
Yeah,
Mr. Foreign Objects himself.
No, that would be the SVP uncut episode, bro. Anyway, thank y'all for joining us. We appreciate it. It was fun. We had 147 views and 50 concurrent viewers at one point on the live show. So thank y'all again. If you didn't catch the whole episode, the entire episode will be posted on YouTube, and the entire episode will be our podcast that we are releasing this upcoming week. Not on Patreon, but if you are a Patreon, if you want to listen to that ad-only episode, you will have the chance to do so. Much love to our guy G. I don't even think I told like the story of just how crazy the community is.
I think it's a perfect way to end it. You should tell.
It is. So Dash said if we get him on the pod that we're going to regret it. For Jay's birthday, there was a food experience event that had a lot of our favorite chefs. You know, we watch a lot of cooking competition shows, and so it's our thing. So took her to this event. It was great. Just an amazing time and meeting some amazing chefs. And I text G like a picture where I'm at, and he goes, "My parents are there." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about right now?" And he's like, "No, like my parents are there right now." He said they just posted it to their Instagram, and he like
I sent him a picture of the menu or whatever, and it's literally the same one that Adam just sent me a picture of.
Oh, that's crazy.
Absolutely wow. So I'm like, okay, now I gotta go meet G's parents. I just gotta go meet them. So if you knew where we were, like the restaurant, so if you're in LA, please go try out Girl and the Goat. It's an amazing restaurant. As long as you don't have the server that I had the second time I was there, the worst experience I've ever had in my life, but they got it right. They made it up to me. I never felt racially profiled as much as the second time, to the point where I almost fucking burned that bitch down. But they made it right the second. Yeah, it was terrible, bro. But I will say the fact that they got it right so much that they still get my business should tell you how good that they actually are and how good the customer service is after the second time we went there. Mm-hmm. That said, I'm like, okay, I gotta find G's parents, but like we're in kind of like this ritzy food. Like I'm like one of the few Negroes there. I can't be like just going around looking at white people's tables. I gotta be careful about it. So I'm like, send me a picture of like your parents. Please send me a picture of his parents. And so I'm looking for him, trying to find the name tag. Finally, I found them and you know, just introduce myself, give them some love. And I so wanted to like take a selfie to send it back to G, but I wasn't able to do it. But I met G's parents at Girl and the Goat, just in absolutely insane, like this community. The fact that is a story that I can even tell, like just insanely wow. Just
small world. Crazy. I definitely sent a text to my parents that was like, "Hey, don't be alarmed. A black guy is going to come up to you right now, and
a Negro is approaching. It's okay.
It's okay."
No, I told them about it, and my dad was like, "Tell him to come say hi." So they were.
It was fine. It was great. And then they in typical white wealth fashion, like went to Australia like the next fucking day.
Yeah, they went to Bali and Sydney literally the day after. What? So yeah, just
living in a different world. But
yeah,
G. We love you, man. G and Eric and Dash are absolutely killing it on
Chocobo Chaser.
Chocobo Chasers, baby.
Podcast.
Chocobo Chasers. Go follow them on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere else.
Instagram, Twitter, all of it. You might find Dash on FetLife. What everything. Just follow them. Everywhere. That's just for you, Dash. Wink. But you guys are killing it. So proud of you guys and the guests that you're able to get on and just talk to you guys and just the best video game podcast that there is out there, bar none. We are proud to call them one of our affiliate podcasts, and so check them out. G, thank you for coming on. We'll be back this upcoming week. I think the next episode that Ryan and I are going to do, we might dive into some draft prospect a little bit. Getting my toe getting in the water just a little bit.
Just a little.
My little Excel spreadsheet getting long, bro. Getting long.
I'm going to say that this is a white well for us as a podcast this draft season. I'm going to reach out to our old friend Scott Wright and see how Scott was, if you remember Scott, when he was doing podcasts on Draft Countdown, he would talk to prospects on draft. We'll hit up Scott, see how we can get Latu on the podcast, bro. I gotta get. He's out here in LA, UCLA. We got to make it happen. I want to get Latu on this bitch, bro. So that's a goal. We're gonna try to do hopefully this draft season. But that said, thank y'all for the support. Like, subscribe. We'll be back this upcoming week. With that, we're out.
Peace.